Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well and having a fantastic week. In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about solving parrot behaviour problems. Now, I'm not going to be telling you how to exactly solve each of your individual parrots biting or screaming or anything like that, and I'll explain why a little bit further in the video. But I wanted to give you access to loads of free resources that both David and I have on our channels. I wanted to give you loads of different information as to how you can maybe identify why some of these behavioural problems are happening, debunk some things that I've seen online, things not to do as well. But I appreciate that some of you may be here because you're at the end of your tether with some of these problems, and there's no judgments on this channel. You may be here just because you're curious, or you want to maybe prepare in advance just in case your bird does have any problems, or you might just be here because you like watching my videos, and I appreciate all of you for being here. But I just wanted to touch upon, this is not a video to solve all your problems, it's about the process of solving behaviour problems, because there are definitely some videos on YouTube that say guaranteed tricks to work for stopping your bird biting and things like that, and that's not the way to go about it, because each individual case is individual, and I'm going to touch upon that I guess now. Now, if you have parrots of your own, or you've seen any of my videos, you'll know that parrots are difficult to live with. We have to completely adapt our lifestyle and change how we do things to accommodate them in our lives. And we do make that change because we absolutely adore them. But that doesn't mean you're not entitled to feel overwhelmed at times and stressed and things like that. So I just wanted to highlight that it's okay to have bad days sometimes, especially when we've got things going on in our own lives. It can just get a bit much sometimes, as Chip apparently agrees with. I wanted to make this video as well because I get a lot of questions like, oh, please can you make a video on how to stop my bird screaming? How to make my bird less aggressive? Why doesn't my bird like me? Why is my bird biting me in, in these different ways and these different scenarios? And it's really, really hard to give you a detailed answer just via YouTube comments, and I'm going to talk a little bit in a second about what we offer instead. Now, as well as this, every single parrot is an individual. I've got 3 rescued green cheek conures who all have different backgrounds, and they're all so very different. So I can't say to you, this is how you solve your bird's biting, just in a YouTube comment, because there's so much more to it. And again, I'm going to talk about some of the aspects that you can look at in your bird's own life to see if you can make some changes to maybe change some of those behavioural challenges that you have. But I wanted to just bring up, in case you didn't know, I know a lot of people know already, and David's already made a whole video on this, but we do have a parrot behaviour and training consultation business called Best Behaved Birds. And I just wanted to make some people aware, because some people don't realise that there are kind of behavioural consultancies for parrots, and most people know there's some for dogs and things like that, but we do have our own specific one for birds, and we try to make it as affordable as possible. Obviously, we leave loads of free resources on YouTube with our videos and things, but sometimes there's just so much more in-depth knowledge that we need to give to each individual case. So we set up our business, and it's been really successful, which we're really happy about. But the core of this is to provide individual, personalised consultations that are as affordable as possible, because obviously parrots are really expensive, and we want to make as much information accessible to you guys as possible. Also, we do work globally as well, so we do virtual consultations, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We've worked from Australia to Norway to the USA and Canada and things like that, so we've kind of covered a lot of bases already. So do feel free to get in touch with us if you'd like to learn a little bit more. We've got all the information down in each and every one of our videos. So I'd say about a third of all of our cases we've had so far have been on biting, and each individual case has had an individual trigger. So we can't, come in the comments and say this is why your bird is biting, because there is so much more to it, going through each case study and things like that. So I just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention. If you didn't know we had the business already, you can contact us via all the information below and learn a little bit more. So one of the main causes of a lot of behavioural problems is hormonal behaviour, and this typically occurs between the start of spring and end of summer, but sometimes birds can be hormonal at any point in the year if you trigger those hormonal responses. That can be things from stroking them all over their body instead of sticking to the safe areas like the head and the neck. That could be feeding really mushy, wet foods, not getting the 12 hours of sleep that they need. It could be all different kinds of things. And I do have a video all on parrot hormones, the different signs and things that you could change perhaps to reduce those hormones, because they do pose a lot of problems. And if you do have a female, then obviously that could lead to egg laying, which we want to avoid at all costs. So do go and check out that hormone video after this one. And as I said, I'm going to leave loads of resources to relevant links or websites or anything like that down in the description to make sure that you have access to as much information as possible. And these 2 little monsters are just snuffling my ear. They're chasing each other around and they're being cute, so I'll let them off. Now, the next factor for many behavioural issues is diet. Now, I do talk about diet a lot on this channel, and that's because I'm really passionate about it, because it does just lead to so many different issues. You may not realise that if you're feeding one of these commercial popular pellets that are made of corn, soy and wheat, that is going to potentially lead to undesirable behaviours, as is feeding excessive amounts of fruit unless you have something like a lorikeet that needs it, feeding too much of seed, of course, but you know, seed isn't all bad, it's all part of a balanced diet. And I do have my diet guide. If you haven't got around to watching that yet, do go and check it out after this video, because diet plays such a huge role in how your bird behaves, how much excess energy they have. Clearly our two are very excitable. But yeah, I think people sometimes don't always pay enough attention to how much of a role the diet plays in how your bird reacts. This also leads on to something that David and I talk about a lot, which is if you're feeding lots of treat foods in your bird's main diet, and then you try and use those treat foods for training as well, your bird is less likely to want to train with you and to kind of phase out those undesirable behaviours, because they're getting, you know, those treats for free in their main diet, so why would they want to work for them? So I talk all about that in my diet guide, so go and check that out after this video. Something else to bear in mind as to why your bird might be biting, screaming, aggressive, territorial, all those kinds of things, is because you haven't got a really solid bond with them, or they could be quite fearful as well, depending on their background. Now, even if you have a hand-reared baby or you've got a rescue, it doesn't matter where they've come from, they don't know you when they first come home. So you need to work on that behaviour and on that bond with them to really build a solid relationship. And this can take some time. It's not instantaneous. It doesn't matter if they're hand-reared or not. They don't know you. They don't know this environment, and it takes as long as it takes. Sometimes it can take a really long time. Sometimes it can be almost love at first sight with you and your birds. Don't expect a certain amount of results or a certain kind of bond in a certain amount of time. You'll read lots of different things on the internet, but as I said at the start of this video, every bird is an individual. It'll take as long as it takes, and it also depends on how much work you're putting in as well. You know, if you're only setting aside 2 minutes a day, that might not be enough for your bird. They might need longer, they might need different ways of bonding. And again, I've got a video on trust, which you might find useful. And David also has videos on bonding with your cockatiel and with your conure, so you might find those resources useful if you have those species at home. Some species of parrots, such as African greys, sometimes even budgies as well, can be quite neophobic, and that means that they are scared of new things. So if you're bringing them home, for example, that could be enough to make them very fearful. If you are changing things around frequently, if you've got different nail polish, if you've dyed your hair a different colour, if you're wearing different colours on your clothes and things, all of those things can scare your birds, and then that can affect some of their behaviour. That may make them scream more, it may make them lash out when they normally wouldn't. So just bear that everything in the environment plays a part in how your bird is going to react. Also consider how you've set up your bird's cage. Is there enough for them to do in there, and are there species appropriate toys? And by that I mean, are the toys soft enough for small beaks to chew? Are they hard enough for big beaks to chew? Is there enough variety? Are they actually destructible, or are they kind of plasticky toys that just sit there and maybe make a noise? You know, you want your bird to be busy, destroying, using that beak, using up their energy, because a busy beak is a quiet beak, and a beak that's not biting as well. So keeping your bird occupied is really important, and this leads on to training as well. If you have multiple training sessions a day with your birds, if you're finding out what their favourite treat is, and you're doing lots of fun training, whether that be trick training, target training, flight training, recall training, training them not to be in your hair all the time, loads of different things can entertain your bird and keep them busy and keep them mentally stimulated. And a tired bird is also a bird that is quite satisfied when they've had loads of training, lots of exercise as well, loads of toys to play with. They are going to be less likely to be exhibiting these undesirable behaviours because they've had plenty of things to do that is species appropriate for them. Now here's another controversial one that I've spoken about a lot, and that is about the quality of time they're out of the cage. Now there's this kind of engage not cage hashtag that Marlene McCone started, which, you know, the background behind it is obviously really brilliant, that you want your birds to be part of your household, but some people focus too much on the not caged part and not on the engaged part. And there was a brilliant interview with Bird Tricks and Marlene McCone together explaining what the hashtag actually means, which I'll leave down below, which I really enjoyed that interview, because it's not about, you know, your bird has to be out for 12 hours a day, otherwise you're a bad bird owner. It's not about that. If your bird can only be out for a few hours a day, that's that's fine as long as the time that they are out is really interesting. So they've got things to do, they've got play stands, they're doing training, they're involved with the family, they're having communal feeding, they might be having scritches, they might be getting tangled in your hair, they might be helping you film a YouTube video. You know, it's about being involved with you. It's not about, okay, they're coming out for 12 hours, I want them to sit there and be quiet while I'm getting on with my business. That's not going to be interesting for them. It's going to be really boring, and then they're not actually being very active. So make sure that if you are having your birds out of their cage, which obviously you need to do every single day, make sure that time they're coming out is engaging, because it's not about how long they're out for, it's about what they're up to when they are out. Now, you may also have to alter your routine in order to modify your bird's behaviour, because as I said at the start of the video, when we bring birds into our lives, they do completely change our lives and how we react. So we have to change our lifestyle, what we do, where we go and how we do it, in order to make sure that our birds are having the best life possible. An example of this for us is our birds are usually awake from 8 AM till 8 PM. So at 8 PM, we put them to bed in this room with their night lights on, and then we have to go to the bedroom and then play video games or watch a film, eat pizza, whatever it is that we're going to be doing. So the kind of their living room, or their room as it is out of bounds from 8 PM until 8 AM. Now obviously with different setups, some people have their birds in their bedrooms, it's really tricky, but you may have to find a way so that your bird can get those 12 hours of sleep, because if they're not, then they could be having some of these strange behaviours that you are finding undesirable, like the screaming, biting and aggression. Now, I also wanted to say as well that in order to give our birds the best lives possible, we have to be looking after ourselves as well, especially our mental health, because it's very easy to get stressed, overwhelmed, frustrated with things that are going on in life, and then when you come home and you have that energy about you, our birds can definitely pick up on it. I know that if I'm really stressed out, I think the birds generally get a bit kind of agitated, and they can be louder and things like that. So if we can take care of our own mental health and our own well-being and that kind of thing, that's going to have an impact on how much kind of energy and time and concentration we can give to our birds as well. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. So if we've got to this point in the video and you're still looking for answers, or you have questions and things like that, I just wanted to throw out a few don'ts, things not to do if you are struggling with your bird, with their behaviour and things, because there are definitely some things to avoid doing. And the first one is, I really would highly recommend not posting on forums, Facebook groups, things like that, looking for behavioural advice, because you are going to get every single opinion under the sun, including obviously some maybe correct opinions based on the information you've given in that kind of short post. But also you are going to be getting a lot of very, very bad advice that you should avoid at all costs. Now, an example of this is, I've seen a few of these, because as you may know, I'm a moderator for the Purely Parrots group in Northern Parrots. It's a brilliant group, but if you are posting in any kind of group looking for specific behavioural advice from people on the internet, you're going to be getting some very weird answers. I've seen some posts, not necessarily in that group, but on other places, asking, you know, my parrot's biting, what do I do about it? Whilst there were some good pieces of advice based on the information that was given, there was also some awful, awful advice, which I'm going to repeat now, but please do not do what I'm about to repeat here, which is pinch your bird's beak, spray them in the face with water, shout at them, put them back in the cage when they do something wrong, clip their wings to stop them misbehaving, or tap them on the head or the beak to punish them, because firstly, punishment doesn't work, and secondly, that's really, really poor practice. So don't do any of those things. They are not right for your bird. They're not going to solve any problems. Most problems will be solved with lots of different modifications in the environment, as well as behavioural modification games and positive reinforcement training. All of this is encompassed in those parrot behaviour consultations I told you about with our business Best Behaved Birds. But as I said, we do have loads and loads of free resources on YouTube for kind of less specific problems like hormones and that kind of thing, and diet management, cage setup. So do go and check out those videos, because you might be able to make some of those changes and see if it affects your bird's behaviour. Now, perhaps you are someone who is watching this video who really has felt like they've tried everything, they aren't able to cope with these birds anymore. Again, there's no judgment on this channel, because I have full respect for people who identify that they can no longer cope or deal with the situation of having a bird in their life, and they want to give them a better life elsewhere. So if you're one of those people, then you know that's absolutely fine if that's the route you're going to go down. However, some don'ts for this is, please do not list your bird on Gumtree, Craigslist, or any other kind of posting site like that, because you're going to get some really shifty people in there. There may be lovely people, but generally speaking, you're going to get shifty people who maybe haven't got the right experience in parrots, maybe want to make a profit off them once they take them off of you. I really would avoid that at all costs, and I've seen lots of horror stories. The other thing I urge everybody never to do is, please do not release your bird into the wild It's unlikely to do very well. It's illegal because it would be an invasive species. You can't just let your birds out into the wild, and even if you have a bird that's native to your area, it's really irresponsible to do it because your bird is unlikely to have the skills needed to find food, water, safety, that kind of thing. Please don't do this. I've seen a lot of people do this over recent years, and it is quite an irresponsible way of kind of shifting the responsibility. You can't just set them free like, you know, people, the animal rights activists, think is the best thing ever. The wild is a dangerous place, especially for a captive bred bird. Please do not send them into the wild. Instead, please contact a reputable rescue centre. These rescues want to help you. They don't judge you. They just want to give the birds a better life and help you in that process to make it a safe experience. Now, for us, we recommend Safe Haven Parrot Refuge in the UK. We actually got Scampy from there, and we adore him, and the process was really great. They did loads of checks on us to make sure that we were legit, and I just think they're brilliant. They have a Facebook group as well where people who've rescued birds can kind of chat and connect to, and they are who I would recommend in the UK. In the US, you've got Runnies for the Love of Pets, who I believe Birdtricks work with a lot. They seem really brilliant, and I'd recommend checking those out if you're in that area. In South Africa, you've also got Cheeky Beaks Rescue. They are brilliant. They've got a great social media account over on Instagram as well, and I'm going to leave all these links down in the description for you to go and check out. And another one as well, if you're up in Bonnie, Scotland, then Parrot Trust Scotland is also a brilliant organisation to get in touch with if you feel that you're in a position where you can no longer take care of your bird. So I hope this video has given you some ideas as to how you can start maybe modifying your environment, having a look at your setup, your diet and things to modify some of your bird's undesirable behaviours. But as I said, if you are in a position where you feel like you can no longer take care of your bird, please contact a reputable rescue centre because they just want to help you. So if you have any questions on this video, any kind of information you need, anything you'd like to know, please leave it down in the comments as I'd love to chat to you. But in the meantime, take care and see you later.